At 2:17 a.m., your laptop screen is still glowing. Your coffee is cold. Your brain feels loud but unfocused. Somewhere on Instagram, a stranger with a rented Lamborghini just told you that sleep is for the weak, and if you really wanted success, you'd still be grinding. So you stay up, again. And quietly, invisibly, you lose money. Not because you're lazy, not because you're unmotivated, but because you believed the most seductive lie of modern work culture, that more effort automatically equals more success. Hustle hard sounds like wisdom. It feels moral. It frames exhaustion as virtue and burnout as a badge of honor. If you're tired, you must be doing something right. If you're struggling, it's because you're not working hard enough yet. But here's the uncomfortable truth most people don't want to hear. Hustling harder is often the fastest way to cap your income, and the reason has nothing to do with mindset cliches or motivation posters. It's about psychology, incentives, and how human attention actually works. Let's rewind. In the early 1900s, factory owners believed workers were basically machines. More hours in meant more hours out. So they pushed longer shifts, 10, 12, sometimes 14 hours a day. Productivity should have skyrocketed. It didn't. Instead, error rates climbed, accidents increased, output per hour dropped. Workers made worse decisions the longer they stayed on the line. Eventually, researchers discovered something counterintuitive. After a certain point, more work didn't just help less, it actively hurt results. Fast forward a century, and we've somehow forgotten this lesson, especially in white-collar and entrepreneurial culture. Today, hustle culture doesn't wear factory uniforms. It wears hoodies, podcasts, and motivational reels. It tells you to monetize every hobby, optimize every minute, and feel guilty when you rest. Your worth quietly becomes tied to how busy you look. But busyness is not productivity, and productivity is not value. Here's where the money leak begins. Most people are paid, or earn, based on perceived value, not raw effort. A software engineer who fixes a $1 million bug in 30 minutes is paid more than someone who answers emails for 12 hours. A consultant who delivers one insight that changes a company's strategy is worth more than someone who attends every meeting. Yet hustle culture trains you to measure success in hours, not outcomes. Psychologically, this is comforting. Hours are visible, outcomes are uncertain. You can always control how long you work, but you can't always control results. So we default to what feels safe, doing more. There's a term for this in behavioral psychology, effort justification. When we work harder, we instinctively assume the work must be valuable, otherwise the pain wouldn't make sense. Our brain protects us from the idea that we might be exhausting ourselves for diminishing returns. That's why hustle hard feels so good emotionally, even when it's financially destructive. Now let's talk about attention. Your brain is not built for endless output. Cognitive science shows that high-quality thinking happens in short, intense bursts. After that, performance drops sharply, but confidence doesn't. You feel busy, but your decisions get worse. This is dangerous because money is rarely lost through obvious mistakes. It's lost through subtle, compounding ones. Saying yes to low-value work because you're too tired to think strategically. Missing opportunities because you're buried in urgent but unimportant tasks. Overworking on things that don't move the needle because they feel productive. Hustle culture pushes you into what psychologists call the action bias, the tendency to prefer doing something over doing the right thing. When overwhelmed, people act just to feel in control, even if the action is pointless. And the more exhausted you are, the more likely you are to fall into this trap. Here's an analogy. Imagine you're chopping down a tree with a dull axe. Hustle culture tells you to swing harder, swing longer, skip breaks, prove your dedication. But sharpening the axe, learning leverage, choosing better targets, saying no to the wrong trees looks like laziness from the outside. You're not sweating, you're not rushing, you're thinking. And thinking doesn't photograph well for social media. So people keep swinging. This is why so many high-effort people stay stuck at the same income level for years. They're not unskilled, they're not incapable, they're just trapped in a system that rewards visible struggle over invisible strategy. And here's the most manipulative part of the hustle narrative. When it doesn't work, it blames you. If you're burnt out, you didn't want it badly enough. If you're broke, you didn't grind hard enough. The ideology is unfalsifiable. Any failure just means more hustle is required. That's not motivation. That's conditioning. In the next part, we'll break down who actually benefits from hustle culture, why it spreads so aggressively, and how it quietly transfers value away from you, upward and outward, while convincing you it's your fault. Because once you see the incentives behind the message, you can't unsee them. And that's where the real shift begins.
Who hustle culture really serves and why you're paying the price. Let's start with a question that most people never ask. Who actually benefits from you hustling harder? It's not you, at least not directly. Think about the platforms that preach grind now, shine later. Social media apps, motivational speakers, business gurus, they all profit when you believe you're not doing enough. Every scroll, every click, every hour of self-improvement content is a small transaction of your attention and, indirectly, your money. Here's the psychology behind it. Humans have a deep-seated need for status and belonging. Hustle culture exploits that by creating a hierarchy of success. The early risers, the side hustlers, the relentless 80-hour-per-week entrepreneurs. If you aren't at the top, you feel inferior. And when you feel inferior, you consume more content, workshops, courses, productivity tools, because you're constantly chasing that elusive edge. It's a feedback loop designed to keep you exhausted, motivated, and spending. But beyond the digital ecosystem, there's another layer. Let's talk about the corporate and entrepreneurial world. The people at the top, the executives, the founders, the influencers, they rarely work as hard as they preach. Their leverage comes from systems, not sweat. Their income is magnified by assets, networks, and intellectual property. Meanwhile, the narrative is, if you want to make it, you just need to work harder. Here's a real-life example. Consider the restaurant industry. Front-of-house staff often work 50 to 60 hours per week. Every hour they work is visible, measurable. Meanwhile, the owners and investors make money not from their labor, but from systems, location, and customer flow. No amount of extra effort from servers increases the owner's skill, but it directly fills their pockets. Or take tech startups. Junior engineers might code tirelessly, fix bugs at 2 a.m., attend endless meetings, all under the guise of learning and hustling. The founders, on the other hand, are thinking strategically about product market fit, fundraising, or partnerships. They get the disproportionate payoff because they work smarter, not harder. The hustle culture messaging makes the employees feel it's their responsibility to grind, while the upside stays elsewhere. This is why hustle is a trap. It convinces the majority to trade time and energy, finite, non-renewable resources, for illusory future value. And the irony? Studies in behavioral economics show that most people overvalue future gains and undervalue present costs. You think grinding now will pay off later, but you ignore that the opportunity cost, time, health, clarity, is mounting every day. Here's another angle, the cognitive cost. When you're stuck in hustle mode, your brain becomes reactive, not creative. You respond to emails instead of innovating. You follow instructions instead of questioning them. And your ability to spot high-leverage opportunities diminishes. You might be busy, but you're not strategic. Let me illustrate with a story. In 2015, a young financial analyst named Jessica was obsessed with being the hardest worker in her firm. She stayed until 10 p.m. most nights, skipped vacations, and constantly said yes to extra projects. Her boss praised her dedication, and for a moment it felt like her life was heading towards the classic success path. Then, the bonus came, and it was average. Nothing reflected the blood, sweat, and sleepless nights she had poured in. Meanwhile, a colleague who focused on key high-impact deals, worked smartly and negotiated strategically, earned nearly double Jessica's bonus while working 20 fewer hours per week. The lesson is simple. Hustle alone doesn't equal value creation. It can even reduce it if it leaves you burned out, distracted, or strategically blind. So why do we still buy into the lie? Because it's emotionally comforting. If someone tells you, work harder and you'll win, it shifts the responsibility entirely onto your shoulders. You become the problem. You can fix it. You have control. The alternative, accepting that effort alone isn't enough, is scarier. It requires you to confront uncomfortable truths, that systems, leverage, and strategy matter more than raw effort, that your time is the most valuable currency and wasting it is literally losing money, that rest, reflection, and selective focus are not lazy, they're essential for high-output performance. Here's a psychology insight that hits the heart of the problem: the paradox of effort. When we try harder in low-leverage areas, our performance declines, but our confidence often rises temporarily. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect in reverse. Overconfidence in effort creates blind spots. You feel competent because you're doing so much, but in reality, your financial and professional outcomes aren't improving. And because society celebrates visible busyness, nobody points it out. In fact, they reward it. You post about your 70-hour week, and friends or coworkers admire your dedication. But admiration is not compensation. Now let's combine all these threads. Hustle culture works because it's self-reinforcing. It convinces you that effort equals value. It makes you trade finite resources, time, energy, and mental clarity for ambiguous future gains. It funnels the benefits to those who control leverage points: founders, executives, gurus. It rewards busyness socially, so you never question it. The result? You're stuck in the loop, grinding harder while your money, time, and energy quietly leak away. In the next part, we'll break down the practical, psychology-backed alternatives to hustle hard, how to work smarter, focus on leverage, and actually grow your income without burning out. Because once you understand the mechanics of leverage, opportunity cost, and strategic effort, the lie of hustle culture falls apart, and real wealth creation becomes achievable.
The smarter way. Work less, earn more, think strategically. Here's the moment most people never reach: the realization that working more hours doesn't automatically make you richer. The breakthrough is understanding that time is finite, attention is limited, and leverage multiplies outcomes. Let's start with leverage. In physics, leverage allows a small force to move a heavy object. In life, leverage allows a small, focused effort to create outsized results. The difference between the hustler and the strategist isn't effort, it's where that effort lands. Consider Elon Musk. He's famous for his extreme work ethic, but the truth is, the value comes less from raw hours and more from system-level decisions. He chooses which companies to build, which technologies to invest in, and which projects to prioritize. The labor he does personally is meaningful because it's leveraged. It influences millions, not just a single paycheck. Now think about someone grinding at a 9-to-9 job, sending endless emails and attending pointless meetings. They may be working hard, but their leverage is almost zero. The time they spend has minimal impact on their income or long-term growth. This is the fundamental lesson. You can't out-hustle systems. You can't brute force success in areas that require leverage, strategy, and network effects. You can only work smarter. So how do you do that? Let's break it down into psychology-backed, actionable principles. 1. Prioritize high-impact actions. The Pareto principle, or 80-20 rule, is real. 20% of your efforts generate 80% of your results. Most hustlers focus on the 80% that produces only 20% of value. Think of a salesperson who spends hours filing paperwork instead of closing deals, or a content creator who obsesses over perfect thumbnails while neglecting promotion and audience targeting. Strategic thinking flips the focus. Identify the 20% of activities that generate the largest outcomes and ruthlessly prioritize them. This requires self-awareness, data, and discipline. It also requires ignoring the seductive glow of busyness. 2. Say no to low-leverage work. Psychologists call this the sunk cost fallacy. We keep investing time in activities we've already started, even if they aren't paying off. Hustle culture preys on this by making you feel guilty about saying no. But saying no is not weakness, it's leverage. Every time you decline a low-value task, you free up attention and energy for something that actually grows your income or skill set. A story. Tim Ferriss, in his book The 4-Hour Workweek, recounts a client who spent 60+ hours a week on client calls that were standard check-ins. By outsourcing and declining unnecessary meetings, the client cut their workload by 75% and doubled revenue. Less effort, more outcome. Exactly the opposite of hustle logic. 3. Protect your cognitive energy. Your brain is like a high-performance sports car. It needs fuel, maintenance, and rest. Hustle culture pushes you to run on fumes, assuming more hours equals more productivity. Neuroscience proves otherwise. Sleep, focus blocks, and deliberate rest improve decision-making, creativity, and problem-solving. When your cognitive energy is high, 1 hour of work can be more valuable than 10 exhausted hours. Think about writers, scientists, or entrepreneurs who schedule thinking time. Their income and impact often come not from visible busyness, but from strategic insights generated during rest and reflection. 4. Build systems, not just effort. Hustlers rely on muscle. They grind, they push, they sweat. Strategists rely on leverage. They automate, delegate, and systematize. Example, a small business owner who manually tracks every sale will burn out. The one who sets up a CRM system, automates email campaigns, and hires part-time help can scale revenue without increasing hours. Systems amplify effort, reduce mistakes, and increase consistent output. They also free your attention to focus on the next high-leverage move. 5. Use selective hustle. This is the golden paradox. Sometimes working hard strategically is necessary, but it's a choice, not a default. Selective hustle means identifying moments where intense effort actually has a multiplier effect. Launching a product, negotiating a contract, or completing a high-stakes project might require long hours, but outside those moments, effort should be optimized, not maximized. The psychology here is key. Scarcity of effort makes it precious. If every hour is hustled, nothing is special. If you reserve high-intensity effort for leverage moments, the impact skyrockets. 6. Track outcomes, not hours. Hustlers track input. Strategists track output. Time spent is easy to measure. Results are harder. But income, growth, and opportunity are outcome-driven. If you want to stop losing money to hustle culture, start logging what activities actually generate value. The difference will shock you. You'll notice that the most productive hours are often the least visually impressive: planning, negotiating, creating frameworks, or learning. At its core, escaping hustle culture is a mindset shift. It's realizing that value beats effort, strategy beats busyness, and leverage beats exhaustion. The sooner you internalize this, the sooner your money, time, and sanity stop leaking. In the final part, we'll tie it all together with a blueprint for building wealth, influence, and freedom without being a perpetual hustler. This isn't theory. It's a step-by-step framework that protects your energy, multiplies your impact, and ensures your hard work actually pays off. Escaping the hustle trap, a blueprint for real wealth and freedom. By now, you've seen the lie of hustle culture, that endless effort equals success. You've seen who it really benefits, the platforms, the executives, the gurus, and how you've been conditioned to trade your most valuable assets, time and energy, for illusions of value. Now comes the part that matters most: what to do about it. This is not about working less for the sake of rest. It's about working smarter with intent, leverage, and clarity so your effort actually builds wealth and freedom. Step 1. Audit your time and effort. The first step is brutal honesty. Track your days for 1 week, not vaguely, hour by hour. What tasks are you doing? Which of them actually move the needle financially, professionally, or personally? You'll notice patterns. Long stretches of email, scrolling, or tasks that feel urgent but aren't important. These are the classic hustle traps. Once identified, these low-leverage activities are the first candidates for elimination, delegation, or automation. Think of it like pruning a tree. The branches that don't bear fruit are cut so the energy flows to the branches that do. Step 2. Define your high-leverage zones. High-leverage zones are areas where your effort has an outsized impact. For most people, there are usually 3 to 5 zones at any given moment. For a freelancer, it could be finding clients, creating deliverables that charge premium rates, or negotiating contracts. For a corporate professional, it could be strategy sessions, key client presentations, or networking that opens doors. For entrepreneurs, it could be product development, fundraising, or scaling operations. The rule is simple. Double down on activities that directly affect income, growth, or freedom. Everything else is secondary. Step 3. Embrace strategic rest. This is the part most people miss. Rest isn't optional, it's essential. Neuroscience shows that your brain consolidates insights and solves complex problems during rest. Sleep, downtime, and even idle moments allow your subconscious to connect dots you can't see when you're grinding. Elite performers, from top athletes to creative geniuses, structure their lives around cycles of high-intensity effort and deliberate recovery. The more you value rest as a strategic tool rather than a luxury, the higher your output per hour becomes. Step 4. Build systems, not just effort. Remember the dull axe analogy from earlier? Systems are your sharpening stone. Automation, delegation, and smart workflows are the difference between working 60 hours a week and making the same or more impact in 30. Automate repetitive tasks, billing, reporting, social media scheduling. Delegate work to people whose time is cheaper than yours. Standardize processes so that results are consistent without constant input. This isn't laziness, it's multiplying your leverage. Hustlers confuse raw effort with results, but systems allow less effort to produce more outcome. Step 5. Apply the selective hustle principle. Sometimes effort does need to be extreme, but only when it's high leverage, high impact, and temporary. Think of it like a sprint, not a marathon. Launching a product, pitching a client, or finishing a critical project might require intense focus. But outside those moments, work strategically, protect energy, and focus on leverage. This is the paradox. The most successful people often appear to work less than everyone else, but the work they do is far more powerful. Step 6. Track results, not hours. Finally, shift your metric of success. Hours worked are a poor proxy for achievement. Focus on results, outcomes, and growth. How much revenue did this project generate? Did this meeting open new opportunities? Are your skills compounding in ways that increase future income? The moment you internalize that effort is meaningless without results, you stop the endless hamster wheel of grind for grind's sake. Step 7. Reclaim your attention. Hustle culture survives because it hijacks your attention. Your energy, your focus, your mental bandwidth, they're all being spent on signals that benefit someone else. Social media, constant notifications, low-value work. Reclaiming attention is critical. Schedule uninterrupted blocks, set boundaries, and protect your mental space. The fewer distractions, the more clarity you have to identify high-leverage actions, and the more money, time, and freedom you create. Here's the truth you won't hear on a motivational reel. You can't grind your way to wealth, freedom, or influence. You can only strategize your way there. Effort without leverage is just exhaustion. Busy work is not success, and visible struggle is not currency. If you follow this blueprint, audit your time, focus on high leverage zones,
Embrace strategic rest, build systems, and measure outcomes. You'll discover a powerful paradox. You can work less, think more, and actually earn more. It's not easy. It's not glamorous. There are no inspirational quotes that capture this truth, but it works. And once you internalize it, you'll see every hustle hard mantra you ever followed for what it really is: a trap.
So here's the final challenge. Take 1 week, track your time, identify low-leverage work, apply selective hustle, and notice the difference in energy, clarity, and results. Once you experience it, you'll never see hustle culture the same way again. And if you want more strategies to maximize impact, multiply income, and reclaim freedom, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is where the conversation gets even deeper and where the real tools to beat hustle culture live.